All right, everyone. You may have noticed a proliferation of legacy media articles lately, over the last few days especially, link in the description, archived, of course, complaining about high grocery prices, talking about how the public considers them to be too high. I agree with that. It's actually true. It's just that they're misinterpreting that data and assuming that Donald Trump is responsible. He's supposed to magically lower the prices at the grocery store unilaterally. He's supposedly a dictator, so I suppose he could simply pass an executive order limiting the cost of pickles or something like that. We talk about pickles a lot on this channel. I'll be talking about them more in a moment. But it's Bidenomics that's responsible for this. The grocery prices were already rising sight unseen for 3 years before Donald Trump took office. It's going to take quite some time for that inflationary price to cool off, for GDP and personal income to pace up with the price of certain goods, fuel and things like that. The Biden administration went after the energy industry. Well, food has to be transported, so if gas costs more and diesel costs more and gas and natural gas costs more, no shit, it's going to at least marginally raise the prices. When you devalue the currency significantly so that people's wages can't keep up with the inflationary policy, no shit, things cost more and people have less actual access to goods. This has been happening for years. Trump has attempted to put the brakes on, but when you brake a vehicle going at a very high speed, it takes a little while to slow down to a stop now, doesn't it? And then you can hopefully put it in reverse. We did have some deflationary periods under Donald Trump. We never had one under Joe Biden, by the way. But you need a prolonged period of inflation being lower than the rise in personal income in order to put this genie back in the bottle. I would argue you'd need about a decade of deflation, actually, in order to actually stabilize the economy. It's clearly not working for the average working class person. Certainly, it's not working for the poor. It's barely functional for the middle class. That's the bulk of the people in the country. Basically, what used to be the upper middle class is now the only middle class that exists. So it's a big problem. But I find it funny that they're interested in grocery prices all of a sudden, because they never really wanted to discuss it except to make excuses for it when Joe Biden was president. When the Democrats were in control, it's, well, yeah, there's a marginal increase in costs. Here's the top 10 ways to cut your grocery bill. I'll simply make do with less and stuff like that. Now they're bitching about it. Very interesting and totally coincidental, by the way. It has nothing to do with sociopolitics. Pickles. We're going to talk about that. There was a time, and this was years ago. This was under the first Trump administration. I remember pickles were like, what, $3.99 for one of the larger jars in the store. Now they're about $8.99. That's a slight change, I would say. But there was a time when I went to an apple orchard with my sister, niece, and her ex and my ex, and we went apple picking. And it was fun, let me tell you. And the apples, of course, since you're picking them yourself, they're not terribly expensive. And like all sorts of, they had baked goods and shit like that. Kind of a touristy place. It's relatively close to here, but ultimately, really good stuff. And I remember going in there. Hmm, sorry, I got a clank. Every day, it's tea time. I remember going in and seeing like there was a jar of pickles, basically comparable to what was in the grocery store now at the time. Grocery store, $3.99. Tourist pickles, $8.99. I'm like, that's exorbitant. It makes no sense. I mean, it doesn't cost that much to grow cucumbers and to buy vinegar, basically. It's really, really cheap, actually, to make pickles. And I thought it was insane. Now, when I go to the grocery store, I see basically the same prices. Now, if you go to a place like Aldi's, you can get like the non-name brand pickles for like 5.99. That's about as cheap as you're gonna goddamn find them in some locations. I'm sure that there are spots in the country where they're cheaper. Ultimately, at this point, it would make more sense just to buy the ingredients, get a pressure cooker, and make your own goddamn pickles. You don't technically need to pressure cook them, but you can. It's safer, we'll put it that way. If you brine them properly, you don't have to worry about botulism due to acidity. But you can also pressure cook them, and I think they use alum powder, if I remember correctly. There are a variety of ways to keep them crispy during this process. It has nothing to do with the context of the video, but I digress, as usual. High grocery prices were never a problem under Joe Biden. No, under Joe Biden, it was just fine. It was basically suck it up buttercup and stuff like that. Well, the American people keep whining about the prices rising. Here's the top 5 reasons why they're wrong. Oh, it's good for the economy. Everything's perfectly fine. Don't worry, everything's normal. Now, all of a sudden, grocery prices are of huge concern to the legacy media. What changed? Because I can only think of one thing: political party that was dominant at the time, economically. Now, Trump will not be able to kick the can down the road forever. Admittedly, the buck stops here, the executive branch. Eventually, it is truly the Trump economy. But that time has not yet come. He's only been in office for 6 months. So right now, you're still getting the lingering damage from Bidenomics. It's going to take time to transform the economy. Now, Trump's deregulatory moves and so forth so far have been helpful. They're going to hold down costs some, although the tariffs may cause some costs to rise, actually. But inflation, as a general rule, has been pushed back down somewhat, which is good. And with GDP growing at a fairly good clip, and with wages growing at a fairly good clip, we can probably claw our way out of the hole of Bidenomics. But it'll take a great deal of effort because it's one hell of a hole. And the legacy media coming out and suddenly acknowledging that there's a problem and that people can't even buy groceries is inexplicable because they spent years telling people, suck it up, telling people, you're just delusional. Oh, everything's fine. Yeah, it's totally normal to pay $3 a gallon for gas. It's totally normal for the price of pickles to be $8.99 for a container. It's perfectly normal that you're not able to afford any form of meat. It's the egg prices are normal. Now all of a sudden they're abnormal. Now all of a sudden it's a big problem. Hypocrisy writ large. That's about all. Peace out.